Splitting an hour on a paddle court 4 ways costs about €8 each, less than a cinema ticket. Yet regular players in Europe spend €600 to €1,200 a year on this sport, and most of them could not tell you where it went. Both numbers are true. The gap between them is the story. A sport that costs €8 an hour should be a cheap sport. On paper, anyway. But when researchers track what club players actually spend across a full year, paddle lands closer to a mid-range gym habit with extras bolted on. And there's a third number sitting quietly behind the first two, one your club knows very well. The people who sell paddle courts say the structure itself can repay its own build cost in 2 to 3 years. Somebody's maths is working beautifully and it may not be yours. So we're going to follow the money through 3 stops. What court time really adds up to. I've done the spending nobody counts, and where all of it finally lands. If you pay to play, subscribing is the cheapest paddle decision you'll make this month. The third stop is the one that changes how you read your own bill. Start with court time because it's the cost you can see. In 2021, Monitor Deloitte studied paddle prices across 13 countries and found the average court rental was €29 an hour. Spain, which has more courts than anywhere on earth, averaged 15. France, 32. Stockholm, 40. Madrid, 12. Split 4 ways, even the expensive end feels harmless. €10 each for an hour in Stockholm, 7 or 8 at the average, and an hour of sport at that price is genuinely hard to beat. Which sounds reasonable until you look at the numbers across a year instead of a session. Play twice a week at 7 or 8 euros a time, and court fees alone pass €700 before you've bought a single ball. An industry cost analysis from the Rackets Sports Institute puts a casual European player at around €50 a month, and an active one at €600 to €1,200 a year. In the United States, where courts are scarce and clubs run like boutique gyms, their estimate is $1,000 to $2,000. What's an hour at your club? Under €25 or over 40? Drop the number in the comments because the spread across cities is wider than most club players realize. Now, the strange counterpoint. Figures reported from the French Tennis Federation's economic study put the average French household at just €232 of declared paddle spending a year. An average, though, hides things. It mixes the person who played twice last summer with the club player booking 3 peak slots a week. Keep that figure in mind because the reason it sits so far below your reality is coming. So the session price is a decoy. What paddle actually sells is the habit, and the habit is the thing this industry measures obsessively. The number that explains all of this is a few minutes away. Stop 2 is the spending. Nobody counts, and it starts with the ball. A paddle ball is pressurized. The air inside sits above atmospheric pressure and leaks out through the rubber core from the moment the can is opened, whether you play or not. Typical club guidance says replace them after a few sessions, and competitive players open a fresh can every match. One American cost guide, Paddle Drops, budgets $80 to $200 a year on balls alone for someone playing twice a week. Nobody puts that on the mental bill because it arrives €4 at a time. Then the rest of the bag, overgrips at roughly €2 changed every 2 to 4 sessions. Court shoes because clubs increasingly require non-marking soles. A racket, anywhere from €30 of foam to well past $120 for mid-range carbon. And unlike a tennis frame, there are no strings to replace. The whole thing degrades and eventually you buy another one. Group lessons run €15 to €25 a head. Private coaching, $40 to $60 an hour. Amateur tournaments, $20 to $35 to enter. None of these are big. That's precisely why they escape the count. But here's the part that doesn't add up. According to the Playtomic Global Paddle Report, the paddle equipment market reached €598 million in 2025, and it has grown at 34% a year since 2019. Player numbers are expanding rapidly too, so that doesn't prove each of us is spending more. What it does show is that equipment companies are turning paddle's growth into a much larger retail business, and the drawer full of small purchases is exactly where that business lives. And that's not even the strange part. Be honest, how much do you actually spend on paddle in a month? Not the number you'd say out loud, the real one with the balls and the grips and the post-match drinks in it. Put it in the comments. The spread in those answers will be more interesting than half the industry reports. Hold on to that equipment figure because it stops making sense shortly, right about when you see who's standing on the other side of the till. Stop 3 is the other side of the transaction. Building a paddle court costs less than most players assume. Industry estimates run from about €18,000 for a basic outdoor court to around $45,000 for a covered one with panoramic glass. The sources disagree on the exact range, but they agree on the scale, and the scale is small next to what the booking prices suggest. Favoretti, an Italian court manufacturer, has published the operating maths. At an average of 45 euros an hour and roughly 5 booked hours a day, one court grosses 6 to 7,000 euros a month. After electricity, maintenance, staff, and rent, net profit lands at 20 to 30%, and under that kind of occupancy, the manufacturer says the court structure repays its installation cost in roughly 2 to 3 years. Worth saying plainly, that's a seller's model, not an independent study, and it covers the steel, glass, and turf. The full club, with land, roofing, planning, and financing, is a different and much heavier calculation. In France, one industry analysis puts the average annual revenue of a single court at 80,000 euros. If you're the 1,000 euro a year player from Stop 1, you personally are roughly 1/80th of one court. That's the official version of the economics. The Playtomic report counts nearly 5,000 new clubs opened worldwide in 2025 alone. But the real answer to where your money goes is stranger than a payback period. There's a problem with that picture though, and it's the part almost everyone gets wrong. You're not really paying for the court. The cage of glass and turf pays for itself quickly. What you're paying for is everything around it. Land in a city, a roof in a wet country, and above all, scarcity at 7 in the evening. The same French analysis counts 850,000 players in the country, with only 57% saying they're satisfied with court availability. Scarcity at peak hours isn't a flaw in the pricing, it is the pricing. Whose side are you on there, by the way? The club charging double for evening slots because it can, or the players who call that gouging? Pick one, because your answer decides whether anything in the last section will annoy you. And that reframes the first two stops. The €8 hour feels cheap because small shared payments always feel cheap. Nobody had to engineer that. It comes free with a double sport. And to be fair, it doesn't make Padel a ripoff either. 100 sessions of any paid sport will cost real money. The unusual part is how completely Padel's annual total disappears into those small shared payments attached to a game that, according to Playtomic, brings 92% of first-timers back for a second session. That retention figure is the industry's favorite statistic, and it's the number I promised you back at Stop 1. The model doesn't need any single hour to be expensive. It needs you to come back, and you do. And this is the part that actually matters: the total. No single study adds it all up for a regular player, which is itself telling, so let's assemble it from the sourced numbers on this trail. Twice a week court fees, 700 to 800 euros a year at typical European prices. Balls, call it 100 if your group splits cans sensibly. Grips and small consumables, 50. A racket spread across its working life, 60 to 100 a year. A handful of group lessons and a tournament or two, another 150. That lands a committed European club player somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 euros a year. In London, Stockholm, Dubai, or most of the United States, comfortably more. To be clear about what kind of claim that is, it's an estimate assembled from measured prices, not a measurement itself. The published averages come in lower. Remember the French Federation's 232 euros. Averages get dragged down by the enormous number of people who try Padel a few times and stop. Except that's not what happened to you. You came back. 92% of people do. The averages describe the tourists. The totals describe the regulars, and the regulars are the business. So the answer to the opening riddle, 8 euros and 1,200 euros are the same price, seen from different distances. The industry counts in years and habits, you count in sessions. Neither side is lying, only one of them ends up surprised. What do you do with that starting this week? Look at the peak versus off-peak spread at your club, because clubs commonly charge close to double for evening slots, and if your 4 can move one weekly session to a lunchtime or a weekend morning, that single change can cut your court spend by a third. Then run the membership break even. One cost guide's rule of thumb. If membership costs $150 a month and your split share of a casual booking is 15, you break even at 10 sessions a month. Below that, pay as you go and keep the flexibility. Buy balls by the case rather than the can, and keep the older cans for training nights. And before you join anywhere, ask the question the clubs least enjoy: how many members per court? There are clubs where that ratio is so stretched that the membership you bought can barely be booked. The price on the website was never the price. The price is that number, times your habit, divided by how often you can actually get on court. Is Padel fairly priced where you are, or are you being taken for a ride? Name your city when you answer. The map that builds in the comments will be better data than most of what this industry publishes. So, the €8 hour. It was never a lie, it was a unit. The natural unit of a double sport, small enough that it never wakes the part of your brain that budgets. Price the year instead of the hour, and Padel stops being mysteriously expensive and becomes what it actually is: a subscription you assemble yourself, 4 euros of dead balls at a time. Officially, this is the fastest growing sport in the world. Unofficially, it may also have the most invisible bill in sport. And money is only one of the 2 bills Padel hands its regulars. The other one arrives in your elbow, and that video is next.